Well, hello there. Welcome back to another live video. Happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining me. And today I'm going to share just some practical kind of paint pouring tips that I've picked up through the years. And they've come in really handy for me. I use them every time I pour, so hopefully they'll come in handy for you. These are, there's nothing really super fancy or anything. These are just little tricks and tips that I use just for being able to pour more efficiently and a little more orderly, maybe. And I'm able to pour a lot of paintings at once and have places to put them and things like that. So first of all, let's talk about my favorite thing in paint pouring. And I use it every single time I paint something. I love it. It's freezer paper. And oh, I love this stuff. It's just fantastic. And it comes in these great big long rolls. And you can get it at Walmart or any grocery store, really. And I love it. It's really affordable. And I use it all the time. I'm going to explain kind of why I love it so much coming up right now. So freezer paper is my favorite. And we're going to do a little painting demo in just a minute. But I'm going to walk you through a few things, and then after we do painting, I'll show you a couple more little tips. So I've got an 11 by 14 here. It's all ready to go. I've got it all prepped, and I put tape on the back, and I got my little hooks in, and it's all set to go. I'm just going to move this over here real quick. So one thing I learned way back in the olden days, like before all this, virus stuff and everything. When I was doing classes and teaching classes, I was doing a lot of demos at like art shows and stuff. And I needed a way of like taking all my stuff over there, doing demos in an orderly, fairly clean manner without, slosh and paint everywhere. And so I discovered these things. This is a restaurant supply item. It's a big baking sheet. And it's like a big plastic sheet, like a giant cafeteria tray. Hi there. Thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions along the way, throw them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. So this is just like a giant, massive cafeteria tray. And I think it's called a baking display tray. I got my first one on Amazon, but since then I've picked up maybe a dozen of them or so. I got them in like a big pack of 12. And I got that on a restaurant supply. Restaurantsupply.com, I think, is where I found it. But they're pretty lightweight, but they're so big. I love them. So what I do, and these fit perfectly in a baking cart. I've got like a half size baking cart. And hey, Navala, thanks for joining us. And I use that as my drying rack. I love it. Hey, Sandra, thanks for stopping by. So my baking cart is awesome. I love it. That's kind of a pricey item. I think it was about $100 something. And then the trays I bought are extra. And but it works so well for a drying rack. But you could just get these trays if you want. I recommend just getting like one to start with. See if you can find one on Amazon. Another thing that works really well, I think, I haven't tried it, but I've seen them, is like a pet tray. They have like big pet trays that you can get. That might work really well. But I love this because it's large, but it's not so tall. I don't really like those big tall bins and things. I've seen them. Hey, Roberta. Hey, Jill. Oh my gosh, all kinds of people have made it. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm just getting started talking about some tips and tricks. So I started with my favorite thing in the world, freezer paper. And I'm talking about these big cafeteria trays. But these are great. You can find them on Amazon or Restaurant Supply. Also, like a big pet tray works great. And then what I do is I line it with freezer paper. And I have the shiny side facing outwards. And when I was going to art shows and things, doing demos, I would take one of my trays along, and then I put my canvas inside the tray. And then I do all my tilting and pouring. The tray captures all the paint. And I would do maybe 7 or 8 demos, in a course of a day. And it's all captured in the tray. And then if I wanted to, I could do like something really cool, which is like a dip pour. So I'd take a canvas and just smoosh it in all of the paint that's in the tray. And you can get some pretty interesting paintings that way. Hey, everybody. Wow, we've got a full crowd here. Hey, Chris, Pat, Jill, thanks for joining us. So freezer paper is awesome. And I love these trays. So I'm going to put the tray aside for a second and then show you something else that I do with my freezer paper. And I'm going to switch the camera view really quick here. So let me switch it. So here's my top-down camera. And here's a big giant mess. It's a big purple mess. But this is my freezer paper that I keep on my pouring table when I'm just doing pours for myself. When I do them on YouTube and make my YouTube videos, you'll notice I have it underneath here. I have this gray paper. I have this gray paper down. The reason I use the gray paper is strictly for the camera, because this big white surface can kind of throw off the exposure of the camera. So it's only a technical reason why I have the gray. But when I'm not doing videos, I put my freezer paper down and I love it. So what I do is I have this down, and you'll see I've scraped up a bunch of paint that dripped off my canvas. I scraped that up and put it into one of my leftover cups, and just save it for later. And it's my leftover paint. But another great thing you can do with the freezer paper is all of this stuff, the paint, it just peels right off of the freezer paper. Now this is very thin because I scraped most of it. But if you're interested in doing skins, like acrylic skins, or doing jewelry and things like that, you could just leave the drippings right on the freezer paper, let it dry, and it will just peel off super easily. And you can do some pretty cool like collage things. And so we'll see some different like drips later when I do a painting demo. But that's one of the reasons I love it. And you can also just use it again and again. And if you could peel off the old stuff, you're ready to go for new stuff if you want. So it lasts a long time, and the paint does not absorb into through the freezer paper, which is fantastic. So you don't have to worry about it ruining your table or anything like that. I'd still probably put like a plastic tablecloth underneath, just for safety, but it does not leak through the freezer paper. So that's why I love this stuff so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the tray back. So I've got my my big cafeteria type tray, and that's lined with my freezer paper. And I got my canvas here, and we're going to do an open cup today. I haven't done one of those in a while, so I'm excited to try one again. But I'm going to show you some little things you can do with your leftover paint. So I've got a bunch of gold paint here. I love gold. I use it all the time. And these are, there's not much in there, if you can kind of see that. These are mostly empty. I've been kind of using them here and there for different paintings. This is kind of a champagne-ish gold color. And these are just all like little random bits of gold. And I see like a, something bad in here. I'm going to just pull that out. But one thing I want to talk about with your leftover paint, if it's been sitting for a little bit of time, you'll want to give it a little stir up before you use it. But what you have to be careful of is not to stir on the sides of the cup. Like all this old paint here is kind of dry. So I only stir in the middle, kind of the center of the cup. Otherwise, you'll disrupt all that dry stuff and you'll mix it into your fluid paint. And so you get all kinds of chunks and things like that, which you definitely do not want. So what I do typically is I'll just give it a little stir and then I'll just combine them. I think I had some chunks in this one. hopefully that won't be an issue. And you can't get like every last little drop of paint out of these cups. So don't worry about that. I kind of just tap it out. I don't scrape it. And if I'm done with it, that's about it. And so I have a little bit left in there, but I'll just stick this somewhere on my shelf and let it dry. And when it's dry, I can just peel out the dry paint. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So I just combine all these little bits of leftover paint together, and then you can use them for another painting. And one cool thing I like to do is if I have different colors like this one, I'll just throw it in there. This is a different type of a gold. I'm just going to throw in a little bit and see what happens. So you can get some really interesting colors just by mixing up some of your different leftover paints. So let's just see what happens here. This is going to be an interesting, it's going to be a lighter gold, a lighter shade of gold. But I've come across some really awesome combinations, and if I really like it, I'll jot it down in like my pouring journal or something, and then I can kind of replicate that color again. So that's kind of cool. It's like, it's mostly gold. It's just it's a little bit lighter shade than what we had. So now we got a bunch of gold I can use. And the other thing you might have to do with your leftover paints, if they've been sitting for a little bit of time, there still might be a little evaporation, even if it has a lid on it. So you might have to add a little bit more water just to get that consistency back to where you like it. So I'm just going to mix this up quickly, and then we'll get into a little painting demo. Any questions? I'll check the questions in just a second, if you have any. We have a full house here. This is awesome. Thanks so much for dropping in and joining me. So, okay, there's a gold color, and I'll just show you the other colors quickly. Here's a kind of a metallic blue. I mixed, kind of custom mixed this one as well. I had some metallic blue. I added a different type of a kind of a greenish blue. So we got a bunch of that, but these are all leftover paints. Here is a turquoise, and I love the turquoise color. And I have a white, and I have a Payne's gray and a white. These two I mixed fresh. I didn't have enough of those in my leftover batch. So let me pull that up, and let me flip the camera really quick. And another thing that is a great tip, and I've talked about this many, many times, is to have a box of Kleenex close by. It's fantastic for cleaning your hands or wiping off a tool or something like that. So, hey everyone, let's see, any questions? Just scroll back here a little bit. Hey, thank you so much, Roberta. And hey, Margaret, Roseanne. So no questions. Okay, cool. Well, I will just get into doing our little paint demo. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I got my canvas. It's all prepped and ready to go. And I'm going to pour in the tray in the, let's see. Oh, Navala's got a question. Just one second. Let's see. Navala says, what happens if you put a layer of matte paint in with your gloss paint? Well, it depends. Like if you're talking about, like if it's a matte paint because of like Floetrol, and you put it in with like a glossier mixture of, if you have like a different pouring medium in there, like the Artist Loft pouring medium or something like that, you probably get some, it should be fine. I don't think you're going to have any problems with the actual mixture, or the painting. I don't think it's going to do anything funny. But when it dries, you'll get some like shinier areas and some more matte areas. But that's, you shouldn't run into any problems like the paint separating or cracking or something like that. So give it a try. That's an interesting idea. Thanks, Navala. Okay, so we got our canvas. I'm going to just throw down a base coat of white first, and you could use any color for your base coat. I've been kind of getting away from using white so much, but for this one, I think I'm going to use the white because with the open cup pour, the base coat kind of has a tendency to interact with the rest of the colors more. So I'm just going to put on a little bit of white and get my palette knife and spread it out. And you don't have to have a really thick layer. I'm going to put a little puddle in the center to place my open cup in when we get into layering the paints. But the rest of the base coat doesn't have to be very, very thick. So that's looking pretty good. And if you want to, at this point, you could grab your torch. I'll grab my torch quick. You could torch out, give it a quick torch to hit any air bubbles that might be popping up. And then I will put a little puddle in the center, and then I'll switch the camera in a second so you can kind of get a better view. So, and then I like to kind of just tilt that out a little bit to expand that puddle. And let me switch the camera. Okay, so it's going to look really white. So I have my little open cup here. So I've just taken just a plastic cup and cut the bottom off of it. I'm going to drop that right in my white puddle. And then we get to layer our paints. And so for this size canvas, an 11 by 14, I need about 6 ounces of paint. And this is kind of a tricky technique because you can't really measure your paint. You kind of have to eyeball this one. So I don't like eyeballing, measurements and stuff, but you kind of get a look and a feel for how much paint is on the canvas. That takes you have to do it a few times, but we'll just go with it and see what happens. So I'm just going to start picking some colors and putting them in there. So this is my Payne's Gray. I'm going to just start with Payne's Gray, put a layer of that in. And then I'll go to turquoise maybe. And throw some of that in. Maybe the blue next. Actually, no. I'll put some white back in there. I want a little lighter layer. And then now the paint's going to start to flow out from under the cup. Now we'll put some blue. And there it's moving around. I'll put some gold in. And then kind of move that cup back, kind of recenter it a little. So you can see the white, the base coat is really playing a major role in this technique. We're getting tons of lacing, which looks really awesome. So what else do I want? Anything else? I think I need a little more paint in there. You can also help your cup along a little bit by lifting it. Let's put another layer of turquoise. A little more blue. A little more white. And then a little more gold, and I'll call that good. I think we have plenty of paint now. So I'm going to move some of this off of my tray. So we got all that cool lacing, and let's move. So we have this big kind of puddle of paint now. So what are we going to do with that? First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move take my cup off. And it's pretty ugly. I don't like that at all, but I'm going to kind of move my paint around a little bit and kind of stretch that puddle because I want to try to save a lot of this. This is really awesome right here, all of that cool lacing. Now we could try something. I'm thinking you could almost tilt that all off, but let's try making it, maybe we can make it a little interesting. Now this is what I normally do with my open cups. I will kind of spiral the cup over that puddle of paint, and it kind of gives you an interesting look. It kind of blends the colors a little bit. I kind of like that white. I don't like this white. There, that looks a lot more interesting than that big ugly puddle. So I'm going to kind of move the paint around a little bit more. See if I can expand some of this, and I'm gonna try to save a lot of that lacing. Alrighty. So I'm going to start tilting off. And I have a feeling a lot of that's gonna go away, but I'll do that corner. Yeah. Now this one, you can kind of almost pull it down with your thumb if you're careful. So I'm gonna move the paint very carefully. There we go. I'll save this little bit. I think that's cool. And let's see, down here. That's the problem with, all of the techniques is, or flip cups and things like that. You end up with so many cool things. It's hard to save them. And most of that's gone. Oh, crap. Oh, well. Anyway, so I'm going to tilt off this area here and see what we can do. This is kind of a, I'm not too happy with this one. So we got a clunker, and I got a big thing of in the middle of my painting, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But I still will try to, even though we have kind of a clunker painting, try to make the best of it and do something interesting with it. I'm kind of liking that. So one thing I'll do, let's see, I'll wipe my fingers off quickly. And I'll see if I can pull this out of here. There we go. And I'll show you another, since it's kind of a clunker painting, I'll show you another little tip. I wasn't planning on it, but this is a good painting to demonstrate it. So I'm going to see if I can do something else with this. The last interesting thing we have on this painting, which is that little bit of lacing up there. So I'm just going to let that, it's not going to want to move too much. Oh well, they can't all work out. So I'm going to, so you just move this down. I'll leave it like that. So, and you need enough paint to do like the next part of what I'm going to talk about. So just one second. I'm going to flip the camera. So sorry about that. That's kind of it's an uninteresting open cup. And I think I had too much paint, actually, is what the problem was. But it happens. I get paintings that I don't like everyone else. So just kind of have to go with it and learn from it. So what I'm going to talk about next is a way to erase mistakes and like little mistakes in your paintings. And I'll add something in here, and I'll show you how to. It's a tricky process, but it's worked successfully for me several times. And what you need is a straw, and I'll use a different straw. You could use a straw, or I've used like a little syringe type of thing, and you kind of cut the bottom off of this. And this is like a children's medicine syringe type of thing. But the straw I like because it gives me a little bit more control. And what you can do is, if you get little areas that you don't like in your painting, we can suck them up in the straw, and the paint around that little area will kind of fill in. So I'll try to demonstrate this on the painting. Let me flip back to the overhead. Now, actually, let me zoom in a little bit. So give me 1 second. I'm going to zoom in. Okay. So I'm going to move this painting up a little. And so right here, just to demonstrate, there's nothing I don't like much of this painting, but like this little gold area, I'm going to see if I can remove that. Let's say like that was something you're like, oh my gosh, I hate that. And you wanted to get rid of it. So what you do is I put the straw kind of right over that area and just gently start sucking through the straw. And don't worry, it's not going to suck all the way up to my mouth, or you don't have to worry about that. But let's see what happens. So I got part of it. Let me see if I can get the rest. So I got the little yellow out, but now we've left kind of like a little blue dot. So that's kind of the problem here. It's a risky proposition. But with that, what we could do, I'm going to just take like a tiny bit of, now you could take a skewer, and you could try to drop a little bit of paint in there to cover that up. It's very difficult to try to blend areas in your paint, in your painting. So let me try one more time here. Like we've got this little like black dot. This is like some of the Payne's gray. Let's see if I can remove that or erase it. That one worked a little bit better. So I kind of just sucked that little dot out, and then the rest of the paint kind of flows in the empty area. So let me flip back. So anyway, that's a little trick I learned, and it works especially well if you have like some like white cell or white dot that you're just, oh my gosh, it's wrecking the whole painting. It can't be too big. It has to be a fairly small size, piece of paint or color that you're trying to remove. But it's worked for me and saved quite a few paintings, actually. So that's just another little handy tip. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see. Are there any questions? I'm very blurry. Hopefully the camera will adjust a little bit with the streaming. It'll hopefully get back into focus quickly. Let me check out any other questions you might have. Chris asked, is the paint Mix with Floetrol, have you added some silicone? No, there's no silicone in any of these paints. These are all just Floetrol and paint, and then a little bit of water to get the right consistency. So no Floetrol at all. Or I mean, sorry, no silicone at all. So just the Floetrol and the water and paint. Yeah, that looked great at the beginning. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the open cup pour looks really cool at the beginning. It's keeping all that stuff while you're tilting, which is kind of tricky. Another thing you could try is doing the spinning, like with your spinner now. That's a very popular way to expand your paint. So like spinning it out might look really cool. I haven't actually tried that. That might be a really cool way to kind of save some paintings and make them more interesting. So let me get rid of my painting here, and I'm going to move it, and I'll show you a couple other things. So we have a huge old pile of paint now. I'll move this out of the way, and I'm not worried about this one wrecking it too much, so I'll just stick it there. So now we've got all this paint. Let me show you what that looks like again. Let me switch the camera real quick. So, let me zoom out. Oops, that's zooming in. Here's zooming out. Okay, that's pretty good. Thanks, Novala. Hit the like button. That would be awesome. Okay, so now we've got all this paint in our tray, and what you could do a couple different things. You could continue painting if you wanted to, especially if you're using the same colors. You could just keep going, or you could save this paint and save it for later. So let's see, what do I have here? Let me get a cup. I'll just use this one. So a lot of the times, after I've, done my pouring and made my painting, like I'll have a little bit of paint left in my cups. And so I'll just scoop all this stuff up and put it back into my cups, the cups that I used for all my colors. So I'll just use my palette knife. And the other great thing about the freezer paper is this is really easy to do. Since the paper is non-absorbent, it's kind of slippery, and so the paint just comes right off it very easily. So you can just scoop this all back up, and all of these colors combined are going to make a very nice kind of neutralized teal color, neutralized blue. But I just scoop them all together, like regardless of the colors, and just mix them all up. Let's see what we got here. And it's not going to be a super vibrant color. It's going to be a neutralized color, but I love neutralized colors and kind of grays, and I incorporate them all the time in my paintings. And this is best done fairly quickly after you're done painting, just because the paint, you don't want it to start to dry or to get like a skin on the top of it. You want it to be really liquid so you don't get any chunks in your paint. So I'll need another cup for this. There was a lot of paint there. But then if you just mix it all up, and you have just a very nice, cool neutralized, this is a beautiful neutralized kind of teal color, of like a grayish teal. And I've created colors just with the leftover paints that are just amazing, that you could never ever get any other way. And if you have a lot of metallics in your painting, let me flip back my camera. So if you have like a lot of metallics in your paint, you get these really amazing metallic colors, very interesting grays, warm grays and cool grays, and just anything you can think of. I know a lot of people don't like the gray. They think it's like a muddy color. But I don't think there are any, muddy colors. They're just colors. Some of them might not work well with, the color scheme you've devised, But I love all the different colors. And I really, really love neutralized colors, gray colors. Um, and so I love, scooping up all my leftover paints. Plus, it's a great way to conserve your paint. And you don't have to throw this away. The other thing you could do now is if you liked some of this stuff that was on your tray and you're into making acrylic skins or jewelry or things like that, you could just let it dry and then it'll peel right off the freezer paper like we discussed earlier, and you could make pendants or anything your heart desires, really. So, but another great thing to use your leftover paints with is as base coats. So you could have these mixed up, use these as base coats. If you don't like the color, just spread that on your canvas first, because more than likely it's going to get tilted off as you tilt your painting with your, the other colors that you mixed up. So that is another little tip on kind of how to use your leftover paints. I do that all the time. And then with these cups, these are the souffle cups that I love so much. I will take a little paper towel and I'll just wipe the lip of the cup a little bit. Oh, this is a tissue, not a paper towel. And then I'll just take one of the lids and just pop it right on top. And then you can just set it on your shelf or somewhere and it's ready to go. Now, if I was to use silicone in any of these paints, I would take my Sharpie marker and write an S on the lid. So when I pull this paint out in the future, I'll see, oh, it's got an S on it. So there's silicone in this paint. You want to make sure you know what paint you've put silicone in, because you don't want a big surprise when you're tilting your canvas and all these crazy cells pop up if you weren't expecting them to. So that's just another handy little tip. So now let me talk about another thing. If you are kind of cramped for space, you don't have a lot of room to do your painting, but you want to do a bunch of paintings, like what do you do with these leftover paintings these paintings that we've just poured? Well, a great inexpensive place to put them and to let them dry are cake boxes. And I get these at, you can get these at Walmart, you can get these at Michael's. These are like Wilton cake boxes, like for sheet cakes. And they'll easily take a 12 by 16 size canvas, which is a pretty good size. So what you can do is this is just the bottom. They come with the top as well. And I've talked about this before, but you just put these together and they're pretty sturdy. So you could put your cake box together, you grab your painting and you just stick it in the box. Now it's got a base to it so it can drip if it needs to drip. You're not going to worry about your furniture or anything like that. And then you can move it somewhere to dry. And just make sure wherever you move it is a level surface so your painting doesn't tilt off the canvas. And if you're doing more paintings, you can get some more cake boxes and you can just stack them on top of each other. So you could stack up 3 or 4 different, cake boxes. So you could have a lot of paintings. And this is a very affordable, easy way to stack them and to let them dry. So I love the cake boxes. This is what I used when I would go to do like art demos and stuff like that at art shows. I had to have some way of transporting them. So I used the cake boxes and then I put the top on and then I could take them home, or, if someone purchased one, they could carefully take it home with them. So these cake boxes are really great. And also if you're doing just small paintings, just like 8 by 10s, or if you're painting on tiles or things like that, aluminum cake pans that you would get from the dollar store work awesome as well. Those work great. And that's what I used in pouring class. When we'd have classes, I would have 2 aluminum cake pans per student, and they could take their paintings home with them and they work great because they come with a lid as well. So, alrighty. So let me move my cake box. Where am I going to move this? So I'll just leave it there for now. So anyway, any other questions think that's about it. This is like not a very complicated video, just some kind of quick practical tips on kind of your painting setup and keeping your leftover paints and like moving your paints, storing your paints. So things like that. So, but if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. And thanks, Navala. I appreciate that. And Navala said she got a fantastic purple doing that and can't reproduce it. It was beautiful. That's kind of the problem. It's like you don't know what's in there. It's hard to recreate those amazing combinations of colors that you get from your leftover paints. So let's see. So I apologize for the kind of clunker open cup pour, but at least we made the best of it, I think. So thanks everyone for watching. If you don't have any questions, we will go and I'll see you on another video. So thanks so much for joining me, everybody. I will see you next time. I appreciate you stopping by and saying hi. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.